resume recording. So,
Brian, can you share with everyone, if you're recording this, where would it be available after?
yes. Let's see where. Well, it's right now. I'm just recording it on Zoom, but I'm hoping to republish it on the Social Media Club's Facebook page as well. So
perfect.
So let's see, where does...
Hi, everyone. I have a fussy baby, but I figured I'd say hi really quickly.
Good morning.
Hi, Leah.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
That's all right. I'm a fussy adult.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I get
it.
You say hi. You say hi to everyone. Oh, he'll calm down for you guys because he wants to see everybody, but he's just been wailing and he's like, ooh, screen.
Right?
Yeah, he looks mesmerized now, that's for sure.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate this.
Zoom fatigue at a different level.
Yes. Maybe I'll just do this more often.
So,
Hey, Brian, real quick, do you mind if I ask a loaded question?
go
Since
for
we're
it.
networking?
This is networking.
I'm curious on everybody's thought. I saw yesterday, again, I'm not a social media expert like you all, but I saw yesterday that, and I actually posted it on LinkedIn last night, the notion of the battle that's going to happen between the new Apple operating system and the privacy settings, and Facebook getting all worried that they're going to lose ad revenue, which I'm kind of like, wah. But curious on anybody's thoughts and what everybody's going to do to navigate around that. That might be a total another discussion, but if anybody's already thinking about it or doing something, it'd be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I don't have an answer yet.
Yeah.
So, anybody? Paul, you've stumped us this morning.
I'm so far behind. Can you update me a little bit on what's going on? Because I have been out of the loop for a few days.
Yeah, so basically the new operating system, if you update your, if you're on Apple, if you update the operating system, it's going to go to OS 14, and Apple is making a big play in there to basically, it's a privacy play for their users that is going to limit really the targeting ability for marketers, if you will, to really dive into individuals' data. And so you have obviously Facebook, where, I mean, we've seen for years, kind of just every agency in the world seems to be, and brand seems to tap into Facebook audiences and stuff for targeting and retargeting. And I'm of the opinion that it's a little on the lazy side, and I know that can be a contrarian to a lot of marketing, which I'm a marketer, but yeah, it's definitely something where you're looking at, all right, Facebook is generating, let's call it billions of dollars in ad revenue, and giving brands access to people's data. If you have, let's call it half the field, who are Apple, and they're going to have some restrictions on the type of data that that advertisers can get to, that's going to be kind of a big clash. And so I think we're kind of teed up to see some pretty polarizing efforts. Yeah, I'm not worried about Apple, by the way. The way it came across in the article yesterday, it was on CNN last night, it's Facebook's concerned because they're going to lose out on revenue. Oh, thanks, Jamie. And again, I'm not trying to hijack this, but I figured we had like 15 minutes, or now we got.
No, I think it's that's the whole point of this section of the meeting.
Yeah.
I mean, is it so much that they're losing revenue, or is it more that they're going to lose the relevancy of their ad targeting?
I think they lose the relevancy, and the backside of that is they're going to lose revenue. I didn't dive into it, obviously super deep, because I'm also not a social media manager and planner. But when I read it, it like some alarm bells went off, just as a kind of seeing the 30,000 foot view, marketing efforts. And I think it's going to be a pretty interesting thing. But I thought it was, I guess what provoked me was, it was almost like Facebook coming out and going, wah, like we're going to lose millions of dollars. And it's like, are you more concerned about your ad revenue? Or are you really more concerned with truly connecting people? I think the true colors are in that, their true colors to me came out. And if anybody works at Facebook, I would love to actually hear that. But yeah, it's kind of a, they have all of these, they have the branding side of things, where Facebook, we bring people together. And I'm just like, but now you're whining because you're worried about losing ad revenue.
Well, I mean, there's always that flip side, of course.
Sure.
It is a business.
Yep.
And if you are not going to support, as a user, if you're going to choose not to support the platform with ad revenue, then you should be paying for it.
Yeah.
So, they have to, Facebook has to make their money somehow, and I don't begrudge them that. But it's but I think that's a different issue than, other than operating system developers that are making changes that impact, there's, you're not gonna, they're not, I don't know, like I said, I haven't dug into the issue enough to have an opinion, but
yeah,
it's going to be it's an interesting pivot for advertisers or for brands. Ultimately, though, when I think of brands and brand engagement, the pivot is to be more organic with your actual content, not your advertising. So
that's my opinion too, as well, Brian. I think that's a brilliant answer. Anyway, I just thought I'd spark something. I'm glad. Thank you again, Jamie, for dropping a link in there. It might be worth everybody's, kind of 5 minutes just to kind of dig into it, because I think it is, it will be a topic, just much like cookieless environment will be a topic, a major topic. This falls right in that same kind of sweet spot of, all right, as advertisers and marketers, we're going to have to think a little bit differently on how to engage with our audiences. And I think you're 100% correct, Brian, that relevancy of content and really dialing in and allowing your audience to have that voice versus just pounding them with retargeting ads. So anyway, I'll shut up now.
Oh no, I think it's great. I mean, I've been lucky in the fact that I've worked with brands that have very engaged audiences, so I haven't had to start and build that audience from scratch with my brands that I've done social with. But I've always been a huge proponent of the relevant content driving the engagement, supported by ads, not building the audience through the ads themselves. So
Great comments, by the way, over here in the chat room.
yeah, all right. So why don't we, you know, we're just a smidge past 8 a.m. Why don't we go ahead and kick this off so that we can end on time as well. What I'd like to do is introduce myself, introduce anyone else from the Social Media Club Atlanta that's on the call, and just tell you a little bit about what's going to happen today. So my name's Brian Rudolph, and I'm currently the chair of Social Media Club Atlanta. It's normally I would say, hey, who in the room has never been been to a social media club meeting before? But I'll just do a quick introduction to Social Media Club. SMC is a global organization, the largest organization focused on education, networking, and professional development for social media marketers and digital marketers, I believe, in the world. We are the local chapter that's in Atlanta. Chances are, I know there's a lot of people coming from outside of Atlanta. Chances are there is a Social Media Club chapter nearby wherever you are. So after the time of Zoom, when we start having face-to-face meetings again, definitely go reach out or try to find that local chapter, because there's going to be a lot of content and a lot of engagement that you're going to be able to have locally, as well as I know, at least here in Atlanta, we're planning on continuing some hybrid model of our meetings, so we can have both extended reach for people that don't want to meet face-to-face for however long they're not comfortable doing it, and people that want to come in and, you know, have a little bit of human interaction. So that's Social Media Club. That's a little bit about Social Media Club Atlanta. I've got my VP of programming on with us, Amanda Oliver, who is with an agency here in town called Nebo. And Amanda, do you want to introduce yourself? And is there anyone else from the board? I see a couple of our friends, Minka, Jasmine, Leah. But yeah, Amanda, why don't you introduce yourself, and then I'll let you introduce Haley.
Perfect. Hey everyone, my name is Amanda Oliver, and I'm the Senior Director of Social Media and PR at Nebo. And my role, as Brian mentioned, for Social Media Club Atlanta, I'm the VP of Programming. So I won't talk too much about myself, but instead will introduce Haley so she doesn't have to introduce herself. So Haley Philippone is a social and PR specialist at Nebo on my team. She is a native of Buffalo, New York, and she earned her master's in public relations from Syracuse University's SI Newhouse School of Public Communications. So currently at Nebo, Haley leads work for both social and PR clients based on her experience, her dual background. One of her signature accounts is Floor, which is a company who designs beautiful modular carpet tile rugs, where Haley leads all social content efforts, including curating designer UGC, managing influencer partnerships. So today, Haley will be sharing with us a few tips and tricks on how to leverage simple features that are within Instagram stories that are a bit hidden in the platform unless you know how to access them and use them. So we really hope that you learn a couple of new tricks from this. Along the way, you know, take yourself off mute, jump in, ask questions, and at the end, we can have an open conversation. So welcome, Haley.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. So let me know, can you see my screen?
We can see it.
Oh, it says I need to reload it. Sorry about that. But yeah, I don't think I'll be able to see the chat while I am presenting. So yeah, feel free to jump in with any questions that you have. So today I'm going to be talking about Instagram story tips and tricks. These are just tips within the Instagram app that people really don't know about, and I really discovered them working on my client floor. We really wanted to find new ways where we were getting creative on Instagram, but not necessarily eating up a ton of design hours, just really simple tips and tricks that looked beautiful and were really fast. So first of all, why use Instagram stories? So Instagram stories have only been around since 2016, 4 years ago, but truly has revolutionized the entire platform. There are more users on Instagram stories than people scrolling on the main feed of the app. So there are over 500 million accounts using Instagram stories daily. And there's a lot of benefits besides just a lot of eyeballs for Instagram stories. So the first being that it can help you beat the Instagram algorithm that is always changing. It's kind of elusive. So by that, I mean that when you post stories and a lot of your followers are constantly seeing your stories, they're also going to start seeing your content a little bit more within the main feed. So it can help your organic engagement on main feed posts as well. And then lastly, Instagram stories are really great for follower interaction. I saw someone said they were with Atlanta Dream and a few universities. So this is a great way to kind of poll your audience. So you can ask certain questions like, did you know this is happening on campus? Yes or no? Or Atlanta Dream, you could ask, do you want to see practice shots or new uniforms? And you can kind of poll your users and see what they're interested in and information that they might need more info on. So Instagram is always changing. I think we all know that. So Instagram recently got a makeover on stories. If you have not been on recently, it looks the same to you, but it is a little bit different. So there's a brand new interface. It got that makeover solely because Instagram Reels developed. Instagram Reels is, they launched it pretty early, but it is the competitor for TikTok, which is natively in the same platform as Instagram stories. So you'll see that now when you go into stories. And then lastly, Instagram completely just updated its new fonts. It's the first time in 4 years that it has added new fonts, and they're really beautiful. And they really, I think, add a lot more dimension onto your stories with a lot less work than you had to do before. So this is what some of the new fonts look like. They just launched about 2 weeks ago. So this entire presentation is very visual and includes screen shares of the Instagram platform that I've taken. So I've kind of bunched a lot of these tips into different categories. So the first one is going to be Instagram fonts, starting with the basics, especially if you have never used stories. So the most basic tip, everything has screen shares. This is my dog, Elle. She'll be featured throughout the presentation. So what I did here is add some custom coloring to my font. So what I did, I can play this video again. I've typed my font. I click this A button and I'm able to use a pen drop, the little eyedropper tool, and I just moved the eyedropper around. I usually do it on her tongue to get a nice pink color. It's a little difficult to read on this background, so I added this white border text around it as well. So I'll show that one more time. So you just click your eyedropper tool and drag it around your screen, and you get a custom color that really fits a lot better within your photo. It'll look more cohesive, and it looks like you put a little bit more effort as opposed to using the preset colors that are built into Instagram already. So next, this is how to add a drop shadow effect. So in this instance, in the old platform, you had to do this by hand. On the new Instagram story fonts, this effect on text was so popular that they built it into the platform itself. So this text is specifically with one type of font. I believe it's called Strong. It's this really uppercase, bold italic font. And so all you do is click within your font. I click the font and I hit this A button that's right up here, and it gives this drop shadow effect where there's 3 layers of text that add a lot more dimension, and then you can keep hitting that button and it's going to automatically switch the colors for you. It just makes it so much easier, and it makes your text pop a lot more. So moving on, this is one of my favorite features. It's a tad bit tedious, but once you master it, it is really fun to use. So this is a rainbow gradient font. So what you do is select all of your text I personally think it works best when you have one line of text, but you can do this on an entire block of text. You take your text, you highlight it in blue, and then you select a color, and you will very carefully take your thumbs and kind of drag like this. It's very tedious. If you drag your thumb too far, it's going to go all to one color. And if you add a background of block, like I showed in a previous example, it is going to go away. So be very careful when you do this. But once you master this trick, it is really, really fun. In this example, I've pulled in specifically some of the colors from her life vest and kayak so that it really is cohesive and people look at it. And I get messages every time I do this feature. They say, oh my God, how did you do that? So people will really want to know how you did that and probably message you and gain some great interaction with followers.
Hey, Haley, can you describe again, like, what are you doing literally with your fingers on the phone? Because
yes. So what I did in this example, so I have my text, so you'll double tap and this blue will come up and you want to select the entire bit of text. So then you will use, I am personally left-handed, so it's probably easier for me to slide with my left hand. So you select color from the bottom. I'll pause this video so that you can see. So I've highlighted my text like this. I will then, can you see this blue cursor on the screen? Yeah. So I'll select, I usually start at purple. This time my text was pretty short, so I started around the orange text little bubble, or the color bubble, I apologize. And all you do is you will drag this part as you drag the color. So they go in opposite directions like this, and you do have to keep your thumbs pretty steady. But it adds where you swipe with your thumb over the color, that is the color that will appear on your text. So moving on, this is a really great tip, especially if you're constantly tagging people, if you're partnering with someone, or you just want someone to see that you've tagged them, so maybe they reshare it. So in this example, this is my dog at Fetch Park. It's this great dog park in Atlanta. They have an awesome Instagram, so every time I go, I always tag her in a photo on my story. But it kind of ruins the aesthetic of my story, so I want to hide the tags. So what I've done is simply drag it. So you can see right here, I've literally just picked up the text, and with my other thumb, you just drag it off the screen. Instead of dragging it off the screen, you can also kind of do a pinching motion where the text will just get so small, you no longer see it. So you no longer have this text that might be really blocky. It might interrupt a visual within your photo, but the account will still get tagged, and whatever hashtag you're using, your story will also pull in through that feed as well. So it's a great tip to kind of minimize what's happening on your story, but still getting the tags that you want for potential reshares and interaction. So that is the last option for fonts. So if anyone has questions, let me know. So moving on, this is just some very simple tips on how to do your background colors on Instagram stories. So this is a longer video, so I will definitely replay it when it loads, but on Instagram stories, there are 3 different types of backgrounds you could do. You can do a solid background, a more transparent background, and then there's an erase tool as well. This video is not loading. So what you would do in this instance, on Instagram, there's a little squiggle. It is your pen tool, and you simply change the backgrounds using that pen tool by holding down on the screen. I'm not sure. Do you think I should refresh to see if it will load?
Certainly couldn't hurt.
Okay, I'll do that. Do a quick refresh. Okay. So if it does not load, it's super simple, and I will send this out afterwards as well. We can provide a link that we can share across Social Media Club Atlanta's social handles. But this is a very simple tool that you just use the pen tool to change your background color, and there's different options that you can use. So it'll be a solid background. The transparent one is great because you can kind of see your image throughout it. And then there's also a tool to erase parts of a background. So say you have a solid picture, it's a whole wall of pink. and maybe I'm launching a new product for a client. Our wonderful friend in London who has her own business, if you want to tease a new product that you might be selling, you can have a solid background and erase part of it and maybe only show part of that product as a nice tease. But this video is not loading, so we'll move on. I apologize. So next, this is an Instagram story tip, more of a trick that most people do not know you can do. So once you do this as well, people definitely will message you and say, how did you do this? So it's very simple, adding multiple images onto Instagram. So I will start this video over and walk you through it. First, so the first step, I've already made this image. This is my dog again in her Syracuse gear, but I think it looks a little blank, so I want to add another image. So I've already queued up an image in my camera roll that I want to bring in. So I go to my camera roll, I select that image and hit the copy button. And then I will go back to Instagram stories. And once you are in Instagram stories, I go to my camera roll. This is the second photo that coordinates. I click copy. I open up Instagram stories once again, and it recognizes right here, you can see add sticker. So Instagram should recognize that you have copied something and automatically pull it in. However, I have done this before, you're not paying attention and you tap away, the add sticker button goes away. So all you have to do is just tap the screen as if you wanted to type a little bit of text and you paste the image. But this will always pop up unless you tap on the screen. And then I just place it, and now my photo has 2 images, and you can do this with as many images as you want. You can resize them, tilt them, and kind of create your own custom layout natively within Instagram app instead of using another layout app or trying to do something that's a lot more time consuming. So that is that. And then moving on, this is really, really fun. Very similar function, but instead we are going to add a GIF. I say GIF, some people might say GIF, using the Jiffy or Giphy app. So what I have done here, I've already queued up, I'm using SpongeBob, always popular with the kids. So this is the first method. There's 2 ways to do it. And this is the exact same functionality as I just showed. So in the Jiffy app, I already have my Squidward meme queued up. And then I go ahead and I copy this image. There's just little dots that you kind of click for more within that app. And it pops up as a sticker once again. Oh, but I tapped away and I missed it. So this is how you would paste it in. I just tapped the screen for text and I clicked paste. And then I move it into place and it's all done. So I can play that one more time so you can see the text paste function. So I go in to my app, I hit copy, I open up Instagram, the sticker went away, so I just tapped the screen and I click paste. It's super simple. Again, you can add as many GIFs as you want, and I think this is really great if you have some kind of announcement, there's a lot of text on your screen, it just adds a little bit of interest. Memes always perform well across Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, always popular, so it's just another way to catch someone's eye, and people are definitely going to say, how did you get that GIF there? Because in Instagram, you can only add small stickers natively. So then there's a second way to do this. It might not load, but it's super simple. So you select the GIF from the Jiffy app, and instead of copying and pasting it in, you can just share it directly from Jiffy to Instagram using their share buttons. I personally don't recommend doing it this way because it will take up the entire screen of a GIF. This option was a Danny DeVito meme, that one where he's shaking his head and saying no. So it is funny to kind of break up some stories, but again, this function will take up the entire screen, so I do not recommend, but it is another option, so it's okay if it's not quite loading right now. So we will move on if anyone has questions. No? Okay. So this is how another function natively within the app. I call this animated stories just because it has some moving features that are just going to get people's attention a lot more. So what I have done, I'll play this one more time and then I'll explain how I did it. So you see this story, you can see right up here, it's actually 4 stories that I've posted as one thread. So when you play it, it says dog toy model with a little sticker at the end. And so it's just this cute series, very animated. And instead of having a video, it's a little bit more interactive because your follower gets to tap all the way through. So it might just keep their interest a little bit more as opposed to a 30-second video. So how I did this is I made them as individual photos and posted each one. I highly recommend that you save them each as an image. So I did dog, saved it. I added dog toy. I saved that again, dog toy model. And so you're saving it as individual photos. I highly recommend saving them and posting them all at once to prevent any typos. People will look at your stories very quickly. So by the time that you notice you might have a typo, you could easily have 20 to 30 views already. And it's also a big pain because Instagram stories can be a little time consuming. And so you don't want to have to start all over and delete it. So highly recommend saving it and posting it all as once as just a best practice. I'll show this one more time in case you didn't notice. Right up top, it is 4 different Instagram stories posted as one sequence.
And Haley, does this also kind of like solve the problem of it doesn't have an anchor text where you can't just like keep the same image? So you put the text in place, you save it, and you're able to load that new image in, add another layer of text, save it again, load the new image in.
Yes, correct. So you will have to save the image. It depends how you do it, but yes. So a lot of the times you will save it, open it again. Within Instagram, you can just keep clicking save at the bottom, or you can open it again if you're going back to work on it. But correct, so you'll have to save your anchor text and keep going. And then I only have one more tip. I went by pretty fast. I can go through anything else that you want me to go through. But my last tip is to use an app. This entire presentation was made through a platform called Canva. And I don't think there's anything wrong with ever using an app. A lot of them are free. They're a little bit more creative and very time consuming as opposed to maybe going through a proper design team where they might be able to create video for you and you don't know how to do that yourself. So I'll play this video one more time. This is my client that Amanda was talking about, Floor Squares. So this is a video that I posted for one of their sales. It's just really quick and snappy, but people notice the moving text, which you obviously cannot do in Instagram. A lot of influencers, creators, and other brands are using apps and functions like these to really get your attention fast. And it's honestly, this took maybe 3 minutes for me to make, and it's very visual. So some of my top Instagram story apps are Canva. So this is a desktop platform if you are unfamiliar. It is basically free graphic design. There is the Canva Pro plan, which our team personally uses, which gives you a lot more templates and free visual assets like little stickers and things like that. And they also do have an app that's pretty intuitive. I personally prefer the desktop version, but if you're in a rush, the app is great. This story, I'll play it again. This was made in Mojo. This is my favorite app for video. All of their templates just have really cool moving graphics. You can add in your brand's text and colors, so it feels really branded and cohesive, but again, super quick to make and it looks really sharp. And then the other 3 are all just for static images, but really great for creative templates when you're stuck on time. So Unfold, Ash, and Story Art. And again, all of these apps have free versions and paid for versions. So talk with your team if you think it's something that it's worth paying for. I think Mojo is maybe $5 a month, and I use it very frequently. It's definitely worth the money. And yeah, those are all of my tips. So if you have any questions, please let me know, but I appreciate you having me this morning.
Perfect. I know one other benefit of having the paid versions of the social story design apps is that you can upload fonts. So if you're working with a brand where you have to use a very specific branded font, that's one way of working around the limitations of fonts available in Instagram stories platform.
That actually leads into kind of a question I had, which is, Haley, when you're not using an app like Canva or something where you can kind of preset certain brand standards, how much when you are creating content for a brand, are you focusing on kind of creating a consistent aesthetic within the customization features just within Instagram themselves? So like, are you always just doing one color, one font style, things like that?
So that's a great question. For colors, no. However, I found working on with my client, sometimes she will also repost Instagram stories. And we've come to find that a few of the fonts will probably use 2 to 3 fonts within Instagram only on our stories. So our stories always have the same 3 fonts and kind of similar layouts. So when we're resharing a post, we'll always have a bit of text and a sticker. So you kind of get that branded feel like, oh, that's a story from Floor. With Nebo, I run Nebo's Instagram. We have a very lively office. So we kind of keep to some brand standards, but have a little bit more fun. So I think that's something that you just need to find what ones fit my brand, especially with these new fonts. A lot of them look a little bit more polished. So is your brand Comic Sans, which is now on Instagram, or is it more of like a beautiful serif that looks more like the Tiffany's font? So I think you can kind of customize it yourself, and even when you're not within an app, you can still build your own brand standards on an Instagram story.
One thing that we started doing for some clients recently is actually building out social brand guidelines. So it's looking at their standard brand design guidelines and then creating almost like a version 2 for social only that expands upon brand colors, brand fonts, defines like usage of emojis and GIFs. So it's almost like building upon that so that you have a larger canvas to work with on social.
I was actually going to ask a question about that. When you're looking at the different channels like Instagram and building out those brand guidelines, do you find yourself actually using variations of your brand voice on different channels and find that different types of content are being created for different channels deliberately?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think for Instagram stories, we really started to make this more of our priority of fall of last year. And so we did a big Instagram story push, which is how I learned a lot of these tricks. And we had kind of talked with our client, are you okay if it doesn't necessarily follow your specific brand? And they said, yes, we actually would love if our Instagram stories could be a little bit more fun than these really polished, beautiful interior design. And so we're a little bit more casual with our language on Instagram stories. And we have a lot of fun with stickers and GIFs and things like that. That I definitely think it still fits within the brand, but it's definitely a bit more of a fun voice that's on our main feed. Any other questions?
Anybody else have a question?
Yes, this is Inga. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, thank you very much. And thank you for an awesome presentation. This is very, very helpful. And just so you know, I'm calling from California. So it's 5:30 over here. I had to tune in and
Oh, wow.
and check out this presentation. So thank you for sharing this this awesome session. But my question is, for Instagram stories, do you know if Instagram stories that have, let's say, different fonts and more stickers, do they perform better or get more engagement than Instagram stories that maybe just have like a certain type of font and no stickers and no other, other add-ons?
Yeah, I personally think that people respond more to things that look like they have a little bit more effort into them. Again, Instagram is all about aesthetic, but what's great about Instagram stories is that your aesthetic doesn't have to be as polished, but I think people are still looking, you're on stories, you're just tapping through. So when you see something that looks different, it's moving, it has a cool color, it's going to catch someone's eye, and people might feel more inclined to tap back or tap forward and interact with the story.
Yeah, because I love Instagram stories. I think they're great, but for some reason I always fear if I put too many stickers or put too much emphasis on fonts, it kind of takes away from the actual image and the story. But then I want to play around and kind of see what works and what resonates with different audiences. So I kind of want to see what you've seen and kind of what you've learned with your client as far as what's been working and what's really been getting engagement on Instagram stories?
Yeah, I think it definitely just depends on your audience. And the best way to figure that out is to test.
Yeah.
And again, if one story doesn't get quite as many likes, it's not going to hurt your brand. So I think it's great to just play around and say, this story was really, really busy. Did it get a lot of attention? And then also think of what's your goal, right? If you have a long story that's supposed to be more informational, maybe you don't want 1,000 stickers because they won't necessarily read the content. So I think you can find a nice balance between the two.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
An example of a really successful story, and Haley, I can't recall if you led this, but it was for Floor, was we did an interactive like this or that, where we had a series of photos back to back. We utilized the poll stickers on Instagram stories and allowed people to kind of like vote on their favorite. I believe this was in connection with March Madness. So we had like this rug madness competition where people were voting on their favorites, they were bracketed out, and in the end there was a winner for a design. And so something really quick like that, where it was like people were able to interact via sticker very quickly, was incredibly popular.
Yes, people love to interact. And when I personally tap on, I don't care if I don't know the person, I will tap on any poll that there is on Instagram stories. And like I said before, it's a great way to learn more. So you could even ask, like, do you like stickers? Do you like it clean? And just to get a polled preference, there's nothing wrong with that. For our client Floor, we recently did another story where we polled for Earth Day, and we did a series of they're big on recycling. So we asked a series of trivia, but then asked like certain branded questions, like, did you know you could recycle your tiles? And we got very interesting results that people didn't necessarily know they could do that, or new purchasers did not know, but past purchasers did. So you learn a lot of interesting things by polling your audience, and they're more than willing to answer your poll as they're tapping through.
Great. And so it looks like we've got a couple of related questions in the chat, and I'll just ask them. First, is there any way to pull poll results in analytics after the story's 24-hour run?
Yes. So Instagram stories does have analytics. So after the stories are done, you can go, while they're still running, you can go and check the progress, but when they're done, you can go back into your Instagram story archive. It looks like a little clock in the top right corner of your app, and your archive will show the answers to your polls or your questions. So it'll show 87% of people knew this and 13% of people did not. I apologize if my math was not correct on that. But yes, it will show your poll results at the end within your archives.
Okay. Let's go back, make sure that we answered all of the questions. One question, what are your thoughts on story highlights and how are they best used?
Yes, so story highlights I think are very important. A lot of brands use them now. So personally, when I am discovering a new page and they don't necessarily have highlights, I'm like, oh, I wish there was so I can learn more about your brand. I think it's a great way to add other layers of, you see your main feed, but those are just images. They might not be reading your captions. So if people are viewing your profile, you always have story highlights that can show your brand pillars. It can show new products. I think it just adds another layer for people to quickly and visually learn about your brand in an interactive way. So I personally think they're very important for brands to have.
Okay, great. Scrolling through, seeing if there's other questions. One question just posted, if you're sharing a post from your feed on your story, is there a way to change the background to the story?
Yes, so that is the function that the video was not loading. So you share the post to your story by clicking the little arrow button. It'll go to your story. You can also tap within that image and you can show a bit of text, or you can just show the square image, and then you can change the background color. I do this almost every time because sometimes Instagram pulls in like brown ombres that just do not look good. So if you go into the pen tool where you would draw squiggles, you can select a color and hold down on the background and it changes it for you. And it looks much better.
So there's a question in the chat about organizing analytics. I know you talked about the analytics that's in Instagram, but I think the question is more pulling those analytics out and combining them. What tools do you typically use to aggregate analytics across social channels and get an overall performance? I say, talk to both sides of that.
Yeah, so we at NEBO, we use Sprout Social for all of our scheduling. They have very intuitive analytics. And then we also specifically for Instagram use a platform called Curate. And Curate helps shopping on Instagram, where we tag products, and it makes it a lot more shoppable on every platform. So both of those tools provide analytics. They both are paid for platforms. So if you are just running a school account or your own small business, there are free tools. My personal favorite free tool is called Later. It's an Instagram scheduler, and it has pretty decent analytics that I think if you're just running your own business, it would be more than enough analytics for you to kind of just go through and see what was performing well, what were your highlights for the month. And Later also has a really incredible blog. I read every single email they send me. I read every post on their blog. It's really informational. So if you need a free tool, I definitely recommend that.
Great, thank you. I see a few other questions coming in. One of the questions was about getting verified. Any tips on getting verified, especially if you've been denied already?
Yes, so you will get denied a lot. It can take a few tries. We actually just had our paid media team talk with our Facebook reps. Unfortunately, we got denied a few times trying to get verified for NEBO. So if you don't know, the process to get verified is you get a few more benefits. You can get the swipe up feature on Instagram, which you can access if you have 10,000 followers or if you're verified. And it just makes you look a little bit more legitimate. So you have to submit your ID card and provide business information to show that you're like a real thing. But you get denied a lot. So we went through Facebook reps directly. I know we're set up as a business though. So I think if you are personally just trying to verify yourself, it's kind of a toss up if you'll get approved or not.
And one extra tip with that we learned from our Facebook rep was that one factor that they look at, which is not published on the website, is third-party articles written about your business. So non-promotional content that's published on the web. So we actually were able to pull those articles, share them with our rep, and they added them to our files so that they were reviewed. Not everyone has that relationship and is able to leverage that, but working to have, publications mention your brand in a non-salesy way is something that they look at.
Thanks for answering my question. This is April Leonard. I work for the city of Kansas City, so I'll be presenting with Social Media Global coming up on September 1st regarding some things. But I do have issues with Instagram. Our followership is not as great as large on Instagram, and I know that if we get verified, we can get more more, it can unlock more things and more free features on Instagram. And we can also claim our location, which is something we want to do as a city. Thank you for speaking to our government or Facebook rep, because Facebook does have government representatives. So okay. I'll reach out to them.
Yeah, that would definitely be good. I mean, I know it's much harder to connect with a rep when you're nonprofit, government, education, or just a small business that's not spending a lot of money. You don't have a dedicated rep. So those are definitely the biggest challenges to getting verified, across multiple channels, not just with Facebook or Instagram.
Yeah, the government pages do have a personal liaison that they do have. I just never connected the fact that they own each other. So maybe I can try to see assistance, with getting approval.
Very helpful sometimes. So it's probably the best way to go.
Thank you, because they just keep denying us. I'm like, well, we're the city. Hello.
Great. I know we've got some time left. Haley, or Amanda, do you think you might be able to talk a little bit more about the process that you go through, your workflow when you're interacting with a client on developing a campaign, whether it's Instagram or whether it's a broader social media campaign? You know, what does your client interaction look like typically? How much freedom do you have, and how much do you present to the client for approval, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so for Floor, we have a very streamlined process at this point. We've been working with them for over 3, maybe 4 years now. We've been working with them a long time. So our process starts within an editorial calendar. So for Floor, we post about 25 times a month on Instagram, with a handful of Instagram stories sprinkled in there as well. So our client will see all of the content that we're planning for the month. So we do a mix of user-generated content. We get a lot of tagged photos. People love to get their photos reshared. And then a mix of our own imagery that's used within our seasonal catalogs. And then we will also combine for our Instagram stories. We will pull themes from our email team, and then also present our own original ideas as well. And that's kind of when we have to get a little bit more client buy-in, when it's kind of our own idea that no other platform is following a similar theme. So our client does go and approve everything. And so we will create an entire Instagram story, show them, kind of walk them through it and say, here's our mindset, our inspiration behind it, and then get approval. So it's a very streamlined process. I know sometimes it is not that easy, but I think definitely have very determined brand standards and find out what your client is comfortable with and what they're not. And you can kind of find that boundary of what's going to push their standard a little bit, but they're also comfortable with it.
And to add to that, as a whole, when we're working with clients in the beginning of our relationship, or really at the beginning of every year, we establish some core kind of creative campaign concepts that we can carry throughout the year. And that will kind of anchor a lot of our efforts. But then on a monthly basis, we have brainstorms that come up with smaller creative campaign ideas that we could add to the mix. So we may be thinking a few months ahead, and then we plan those campaigns, talk to the client about them, and then work them into the editorial calendar process that Haley mentioned. And then somebody asked a question, I answered it in the chat, but it was, would you include user-generated content in your grid? Or is that something only shared in your stories? And I said, we definitely include UGC in the feed as long as it is high quality imagery and it fits with the aesthetic of your brand. Because Instagram specifically is one of the only social channels where when you visit it, it is almost like a visual representation of your brand, all viewed on one screen. And so depending on the look and feel of your feed, for Floor specifically, it has a very high-end designed look and feel. And so we want to make sure every piece of UGC that's dropped into the feed meets that standard. And so if we have lower quality UGC, that may be when we're sharing it in stories instead.
Mm-hmm. And I think UGC adds a different level of trust with your brand, is that it's not just beautiful photos that could be photoshopped. You don't know, what kind of work went into getting that photo. So when you have really great user-generated content, so if you're from the city and someone's saying, I had the best time in the city, look at this awesome picture I took downtown, it's showing another level of personalization that people are kind of backing up, like the quality of your brand as well, and are showing that they're supporting you.
Do you have a platform that you manage UGC permissions with, and are you even confirming permissions, or what's your process for that?
So for Floor, we house all of our Instagram within Curate. That platform has a media gallery, and so anything that we save on Instagram gets pulled into our gallery. And so that's a great way for me and our client to kind of collaboratively show the images that we're seeing and might want to post. In terms of getting permissions, so if someone tags us, Floor personally takes that as your permissions to reshare on Instagram, and we always give a tag. We will always tag them and give them full credits on Instagram, and then we will formally reach out and ask for permission if it's going on any other platform that's not Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. So if it's used in their catalog, their website, or an email, we will formally reach out and say, we usually just comment on the Instagram post and say, please share with #myfloor if we can use this in other marketing efforts, and 9 times out of 10, they respond within an hour and they are overjoyed for their images to be used.
We work with some other clients where we have an established hashtag where we'll reach out in a comment and say, respond with hashtag this, if we have your permission to use it, and then they have a landing page on their site with the details of that agreement. And then we'll oftentimes use, as Haley mentioned, the saved images and Instagram, or we also have like Google Sheets that we'll use to drop in lists, status, a status column, et cetera, if it's approved, pending, if it's been scheduled.
Hi, Haley, this is Inga again. Can you spell that platform that you just mentioned? I think it's Curalite?
Yes, so it is Curalate. Amanda, can you verify that spelling?
Yeah, I dropped it in the chat box.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome.
Curalate is a paid platform. It's really awesome for e-commerce brands. It allows different levels of tagging products from your website, emails, on Instagram. It'll drive just a lot more traffic to your landing pages on your site.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'll definitely look into that. I haven't heard of Curalate, so I'll definitely check it out. Thank you.
Of course.
Right. Well, if anybody has other questions, don't hesitate to just unmute yourself or post them in the chat window. While anybody else is formulating a question, Haley or Amanda, do you guys, what physical equipment are you using beyond your phone? And is there a process that you've developed that makes the most sense for getting from desktop to your phone, or from cameras or video, whatever?
Yeah, so I think at our agency, we do have a full backdrop and a photographer who can take those images if we have products in stock as well, or our client will send a majority of our imagery. But I've also found that the new iPhone quality is so great. It really just saves so much time. People don't know the difference. And so I think most of our team has completely shifted to a lot of iPhone work, shot on iPhone. It's very popular. I really don't think you need that much else. We also have different iPhone tripods, ring lights. We have a selfie light that attaches to the iPhone, as well as a larger ring light. And then we also do have professional lighting that we'll use, but for the most part, it's really just iPhone and different apps to edit.
Have you found a resource for helping with lighting and lighting education, or do you have people at the agency that came in with that knowledge already?
Yeah, our design team, our creative team already had that knowledge, but I will say sometimes setting up certain things, Nebo does a really awesome IGTV series, we shoot a podcast, so when we are filming for that, sometimes it's just our team setting up, and so we've kind of had to figure it out yourself, and it really is just test runs, and you learn pretty quickly, but I really don't think you need crazy equipment by any means these days.
No, I personally, I know that even with the best equipment or nothing but your phone, lighting will make or break the shot.
Yes.
So definitely recommend testing, trying out different things. Yeah, the test and learn approach is fantastic.
Have you found sorry, this is April again. Have you found a good number, like a magic number for IGTV videos?
In terms of how many to post?
In terms of like how long, how many minutes, like when they drop off, because I know you can see it more on Facebook, but IGTV is kind of harder to read.
Yeah, so if you're posting, if you don't know, IGTV is Instagram TV, and it is housed on your profile. You can post them within your main feed as well, but then there's a separate tab for IGTV videos. So if it's in your main feed, it'll show up to 1 minute. And then after 1 minute, you have to tap out and it takes you to the IGTV on your profile. I personally think 3 to 4 minutes max. I always think 2 minutes is great for a social video. You can go up to 10 minutes for IGTV. And we have posted some interviews that I have like shot, edited, everything. And it's even difficult for me to get through the whole thing sometimes. So I think shorter is always better on social.
And then someone just asked in the comments, Reels is pretty new. Any insights or tips? Haley, I know you have opinions.
Yes, so I almost included something on Reels. So we knew Reels was coming for months. I really think that they launched it a little bit early with all of the controversy surrounding TikTok potentially getting banned. So I have dabbled in Instagram Reels. It most definitely does not have the same functionality as TikTok. Some of the benefits of TikTok is that it's easy to reshare on other platforms. So it uses all of the approved music and it gives a creator credit in the corner. If you've noticed on TikTok, I did make a Reels of my dog. And so you kind of take the shot within the platform and it goes up to a minute. But you can only use certain songs and they are just kind of like your iTunes version of a song. And once you save it, you lose the audio. So you literally cannot repost it anywhere, which I think is a major downfall of Instagram Reels. So I hope they figure out a way to get some copyrighted music because I don't think it will last. And I've already seen a lot of people saying there's so many different types of content between IGTV, Instagram Live, Instagram Stories, all of these things that people are kind of overwhelmed that all of a sudden there is another form of content on their feed. So we will see how they update it, but I'm very intrigued.
Okay. Well, we're coming up towards the top of the hour, but we still have time for one or two questions if anybody has them. And if not, I will say thank you to everybody. And thank you for joining. This was definitely one of the most geographically diverse meetings we've had. So continue to watch the channels where you found out the info about this one.
Thank you. Sorry,
for
Brian,
joining.
did you say there was a London club?
Actually, you know what? Caroline from our global team is here. Do you want to talk about global chapters? Not sure if you're still there. Yeah, there you are.
Hey, Brian. And hi. We do.
D for short. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. We do have some activity in Europe. I would say our most active region would be in France and Germany. But we have had people asking us about London. It takes a little bit of love and work to organize a chapter, as Brian and Amanda know. So if you might be interested, I'd be happy to connect with you.
Okay, that would be great.
Wonderful.
I will send you my email if that's helpful.
That would be great. And I will see it from your Zoom registration.
Oh, yes. Yes. Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you. So thanks for joining, everybody. And we will have this hopefully as a recording and post it back up as after the fact content. So thank you, Haley. Appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us and look for events in the future. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.